Cayuga Bird Club member for almost 30 years. She's a past president, the current field trip chair, and has led many field trips herself. An ardent naturalist and world traveler, tonight she will tell us about her trip to Indonesia, and even show it, in search of endemic birds, exotic insects, and orangutans. So please join me in a very warm welcome for Meena.
Thank you very much, everybody. Actually, I was wondering whether we'll have anything or not. Thanks to Cindy. She thought of television. I said, yes, bring it, we can see it. So thanks again. Volume is too high?
No, it's coming from
I'm
her.
just leaving. Left the room.
One day, 2 years ago, I was sitting and just thinking something, and suddenly I thought of birds of paradise. I said, oh, I want to see them. But then I thought it is too expensive to go. I shouldn't think of it. But then I started looking into websites and all. I found a couple of places where went tours and field guides were taking trips. It was something like $14,000 totally, and plus my flight to that place. So I said, oh, this is too expensive, I can't handle it. But then I said, okay, this is going to be my lifetime trip. I have to see this birds. So I said, okay, I'm going. So I signed up with field guides, I think. Tom Johnson and somebody else, Doug Gutchfield was going to lead the trip. But luckily, after 2 months, it so happened, pandemic came up, so trip got cancelled, so I didn't have to pay $10,000, and I was glad about it. But then I still kept thinking about it all the time. Then I was looking into various websites and various trips and all. And then I found one website. First, initially, I was thinking of going to Papua New Guinea, which is a different country compared to where I went. But Indonesian part, Ed Scholes had given a talk here couple of years ago, and I had heard about birds of paradise in Indonesia. So I said, oh, maybe I should try that. So then I started looking out for West Papua trips, and there I found one guy called Monal. His name is Muhammad Nalinado, but he calls himself Monal. Monal is a bird. So he has been doing birding trips, so I wrote to him. And he said minimum 5 people and so much of expenses and all. I said no, I don't want so many people with me. I just want to go at least 1 or 2, not more than that. And it so happened somebody else from another Indian woman also wanted to go on this trip. So I said okay, 2 of us would be willing to go. So Manal said, okay, I'll give you price of 5 people's trip, because he was also not having any trips because of the pandemic, and also this was the first trip he was doing. So he said okay, I'll give you full concession. And so it was less than half of what I was paying for the field guide trip. So I decided to sign up, and that's how I ended up in Indonesia. So let's start with the slides. Another reason why I wanted to do was, long time ago, in 1970s, I had just become member of Bombay Natural History Society, and I used to read a lot of travel books and exploring. So at that time, I had read a book by Alfred Russel Wallace, and that's how it was in my mind. And another thing I had come across was one of my school friend. She used to give me National Geographic to read. We didn't have money to buy National Geographic, so whenever I went to her house, I'll pick up some books, some of the magazines, and read some of them and return back to her. So one of the books she gave me, I'm still trying to find out that article here in Cornell, but I haven't been able to successful. So there was one article on birds of paradise by somebody called Dennis Armand, if my name is, if I remember right, and he was filming birds of paradise in New Guinea, but he was beta testing Kodak first color film. That was what I remember after reading that, and I had read so much about that. So this bird I had to see. So these birds I had to see. Sorry. Black terns are calling. Black terns are calling. I'm afraid. I had switched it off. I thought like this off. Next slide.
I can move them if you'd like.
Okay. So this is Indonesia. Indonesia is made up of several large and smaller islands. And once upon a time, they were all independent islands. And there were variety of kings in each and every places. I'll have to do something. I can show you with this. See, this is called, this whole island is New Guinea Island. And, okay. This whole island is... we are very creative people. So, this whole island is called Bird's Island because it looks like a bird's shape. See, it's a bird's head, and it's a tail here, and this is bird here. And this is where all the birds of paradise are found. And some of them are found in smaller islands too. But most of them are found in this area. When I go further, I'll tell you about that. But there are lots of different islands, and all these islands have different fauna. So this is a guy, Alfred Russel Wallace. He was a naturalist from UK, and before going to Indonesia, he had gone to South America and collected lots of insects and everything. But what happened was, on the way back with his collection, the whole ship caught fire. So everything got burnt, so he couldn't collect anything. But he was very thoughtful and was thinking about variety of things. And then he went to, he was not a rich guy. He was a son of a merchant. So he had to find a way of going to some other places. So he wanted to go to Indonesia. So he told his patterns that he will collect insects and whatever he can get, birds, and bring them. So he was financed by that. And that's how he got finances for his trip. And when he was there, he collected lots and lots of insects. I was lucky to see these collections in British Museum when I was in British Museum in 1992. So I was quite familiar with this, and this was the book which I read first time in 70s. So when he was there, he learnt about natural selection. So he and Darwin were almost at the same time. Darwin few years earlier, but he hadn't synthesized his idea completely. But this guy, he's collected in this area, and he came up with the idea of natural selection too. And he wrote to Darwin saying that this is what I'm finding, because based on the collections, he wrote several papers about natural selections and sent it to Darwin. There is a story, Darwin read all those things, and then his advisor was some Royal Society fellow. I forget, I know the name, but I forget his. He said, like, if you want to get fame, then you have to publish it without him and as soon as possible. So that's why he published. And but Alfred Russel Wallace was something like, he said like, okay, it doesn't matter. I say I discovered, but somebody could have discovered before me. Which discovery is something which you don't know. You discovered for yourself on that day, but somebody else already knew. So locals probably knew about this. So it's not a big discovery. So that's why he was quite, what do you say? Okay person. He didn't want fame. So he decided to let Darwin have the fame. So this is what Darwin wrote when he wrote his paper. I can't read from here, if you can read. Charles Darwin was impressed with how much Wallace's theory of natural selection matched his own, and a lot of his chapters have headings from the wordings which Wallace had written. And this was a recent book I read, which was a very interesting book. If anyone is interested, should read it. It's available in Cornell Library. I'll skip this one. This is somebody talking about, somebody did a search on plagiarism, and they found Russel Wallace's words were taken directly by Darwin to do all those, whatever he wrote. So according to him, according to that person, Darwin was a thief. That's what he wrote in his article. I flew to Jakarta. From Jakarta, I traveled in Yogyakarta. So my trip was not only for birds, but I was also interested in culture and architecture of that area, archaeological sites also. So I went to Yogyakarta, and from Yogyakarta I flew to West Papua. I traveled in West Papua to several places in West Papua, Waigeo Island, which I'll talk about a little later, and Arfak Mountains, and Nimbok Drive. So these are all in this part of the West Papua. And then I spent a week in Lorelindu National Park in Sulawesi. And then from there I flew to Bali, because everyone goes to Bali, so I had to see what Bali is. But I wasn't impressed by Bali so much. But I was impressed for architectural purposes. But otherwise, Bali was not so impressive. And from there, I went to Bukit Lawang to look for orangutan. There are two subspecies. I don't know if they're species or subspecies. Of orangutans are found. This one in Bukit Lawang are very orange, while in Borneo Island, they're less orange compared to those found in this area. So this was the girl from Maryland, lady from Maryland, and me, and this was Monal. We did the West Papua trip. So I'm going to mostly talk about West Papua because there are so many things, several talks are needed to do all those things. At least 5 talks I'll need to do on all things I did there. So first thing I did was, I went and met my guru. This is my guru, Berlin Padnaya. Before going to Indonesia, I decided to learn Indonesian language. So with Indonesian embassy has classes for to learn Indonesian language. And first I took a class with Yolanda Pandin in our own Cornell. And then I continued doing 2 more semesters with this Indonesian embassy. So he was my guru, but he was teaching, that time being pandemic, he was teaching from Yogyakarta, and that's how I learned some Indonesian language, but now I think I've forgotten most of it. And then I also met another birder whom I had corresponded with him, Panji Guste, and this girl was a friend of Berlin, and she also joined me. So in Java, we traveled together and did some birding there. And I was fascinated by a variety of dishes. This was supposed to be Greater Sunda Island dishes. And the time I went to Borobudur, G20 was happening, and so they had closed for public. So only I could look at Borobudur from way out on the gate side. But I could go to Parambanam temples, which unfortunately in 2006 there was a big earthquake. So all the stones had fallen down, so they had to rebuild it. One interesting thing about this temple is all these stones on which carvings are done are just placed one above the other. They are not cemented or anything. So they knew earthquakes happen very often here, and that's how they had built the temple there. So this was beautiful, and but of course you will see half Shiva's body was connected with something else. But they had still put it up together in last 10 years or so to a decent structure. And people of Indonesia were very, very friendly and nice people. This was a village market in Bukit Lawang, in Lorelindu, and as soon as I go, they will put their thumbs up or do high fives, and they ate lots of chilies. So you can see how much they were selling there, and people would buy in big bags. And this is a guy who was a salesman. He was in a village Mankori with all things on his motorbike. He was selling a bed also on his motorbike. And this was, I thought, very interesting. In Sulawesi, cemeteries are very interesting. These are graves of people. So each grave has their own room. So it's supposed to be that souls of the people who died would live in that houses. So these people, in some part of Sulawesi, have a group of people who sometimes can't afford to build these things. So they put them in a temporary grave, and for several years they remain in temporary grave, and finally come back to this kind of graveyards. Okay, so now I come to birds of paradise. Okay, this doesn't go away, right?
In your settings.
Okay, never mind.
It would be your settings in Zoom, so probably.
I mean, here I don't see it, so okay, never mind. So there are birds of paradise they are very closely related to crow family, and there are lots of species, different species in birds of paradise. Birds of paradise are one with wonderful colors and displays, and Parotia is another species of group of birds. Astrapias are again with the long tail and beautiful displays. Paradigallas are not so very showy, but they belong to this frame. Manukodes are also similar to crows. Sicklebills, they have very beautiful display. And rifle birds. Rifle birds sound like a rifle, like somebody is shooting. And about 41 species of birds of paradise are found here, have been described. Some say 39, some say 41. 40th was the one Ed Scholes described, that is this bird, Vogelkop's superb bird of paradise. There are 28 species found in Indonesia of that, and of which 6 of them are endemic to Indonesia. Come on, go. Okay. Oops, it went to 2. Okay. So, interesting thing about bird distribution here is depends on the topography of this. There are mountains which are more than 15,000 to 17,000 height. So some birds are found only in small islands like Waigeo or in places like Baik. And some are found only in the mountainous region of Indonesia, West Papua New Guinea island, and some of them found at the lower level of this. So that's how you can see these all complement each other. And see here, one species of bird of paradise found only in this area. So though there are so many species of birds of paradise, they are belonging to some small islands in some cases. So also there are other species or other groups of birds. So those who are in blue, they are found in Australia as well as in Papua New Guinea, and all these blue markings are the ones I saw in Indonesia, and I also had seen some of them in Australia too. But those which are with asterisks, they are found only in Papua New Guinea islands, like forest rails, jewel babblers, and melodictis. These are all found only in Papua New Guinea islands. So I got to see lots of these birds. And some of these birds, this is called Satanic nightjar, which is found at only high elevations of Laurel Indo Mountains. This is called Geomelia. A lot of people visit Geomelia, Laurel Indo, just to see this bird. And I was lucky to see easily. And Idris was my guide in that area. And then there are endangered species like Bali Myna. Now only I think about 200 are wild species available, but most of them are gone. They're very beautiful mynas. And then the forest, three-toed forest kingfisher, which we used to call in India, but slightly this subspecies has a more pinkish color on that, while ours has violet color on that. Some of the habitat, as these are islands, there are beautiful bays where there are a lot of snorkeling and diving happens, and coral reefs are in plenty. This is Arfak mountain, which is about 10,000 feet high in Arfak region. So you can see how forested. There are no roads in most of the places, so it's hard to travel. And this is a forest in Bukit Lawang where orangutans are found. This is one of the forested area in Laurel Indo. These are the forests of Arfak Mountains. This is the tallest banana tree which grows quite high and has a big banana as a fruit. And then there are lots of rivers and along this, and riparian habitat is also very interesting there. In the bogs, I found this giant pitcher plant, which is as tall as, each pitcher is as tall as a foot long. Pitcher plant. And there are lots of species of ferns and variety of trees. I could recognize quite a few of them because Some of them have same genus as in India. And plants are so tall, you can't see the flowers. So if you want to see flowers, you have to look down, or you have to look down at the leaf and say, oh, which tree is that? That's how locals also identify these plants. Pandanus is one of the most common, interesting species, because fruits of these pandanus are very important for birds of paradise. You will see some of the fruits which are being eaten. This is a giant pandanus, which has a big red fruit, and it's a very popular fruit for a lot of birds of this area. And also these fruits and all are very important for species like bowerbirds. This is a bower of a Vogelkop bowerbird, and you can see fruits they have collected here to decorate and attract mates. And then this was my dream. So I went on the day which was my birthday, and so I spent a whole 2 days out in the jungles without any internet and anything. So that is so orangutans were this was one of the orangutan getting up early morning. And here is a baby orangutan who was also somewhere nearby and came down in the morning. This was a giant male. He was twice my size, and maybe not twice, but at least more than 1.5 size, and huge. He jumped from one tree to a bamboo, and the whole bamboo came down. And then he was on the ground and he walked right in front of us. But they are very gentle creatures. But sometimes they have been they are known to attack also. Okay, after this I'll show you some pictures of people, and then I'm ending this PPT, PowerPoint, and then I want to show you, see, birds of paradise, you can't enjoy it unless you see their behavior. So I'll show you video, which is about 25 minutes, so I hope we have enough time. And this is, okay. Other primates also saw, several primate species were there. Come on, go. And I enjoyed looking at moths at night, something like 300 species in 2 nights. Could have got more because we were in a village, so it was not out in the forest. But as everywhere, development is coming in, and most of the forests are being cleared for palm oil plantations. But now Indonesian government has put end to that, but there are coffee plantations and cocoa plantations. So people who eat chocolates and coffee, remember, you're destroying a lot of and tea, a lot of forests. And these people were trying to do ecotourism, so they are very aware of loss of forests and all, and they were very friendly people and talking to me about it. And a little bit about my own trip, what I did. So we used to go early in the morning, before sunrise. We have to be in the blind and sit in the blind for like about 4 hours, or till the bird display is over. Birds would come sometimes way before it was bright, and they would be starting to screaming. Most of them scream. They don't have any songs like that, but they were screaming, and they will do all kinds of displays, and then if the females come, they continue, otherwise they go away. And so this was where, so what these local people do is they build a blind, and you go and sit in the blind. and blinds are covered with plants and also birds don't mind that. And this is a local tribal guy, Sami tribal, and his name is Yosios, and he was quite taken by me, and he would come with me everywhere, wherever I went, because sometimes I used to go alone to look for birds and all. He will say like, no, don't go alone. But he had reason for that. So he will come with me everywhere and carry my bag and carry my tripods and all those things. So it was nice. And another thing about Indonesian hiking and all is, so they know they have to go to this point A. So they are at point B. So the way to go is just climb straight. They never think of going zigzag way or something like that. It's a straight climb from one point to one point. So sometimes it could be very steep. So when it was very steep, for us, they would put something like bamboo, some kind of contraption so we could take support. And sometimes they had these vines. So vines would be long enough. So I'll be walking down that vines and suddenly it will end without any idea like it is going to end. And first time I almost fell down, but then I knew how it goes. So that's how I learned to look behind and go down, you know. These are some of the locals. And also, it's not easy to go into any of these places. Like, if I go to Nebraska, for example, I'll say, look, okay, I know where I have to go. Drive somewhere and stop and look for birds and things like that. Here you can't do that because each village has its own property. So if you are going to some village, you have to get permission from that village. Otherwise, those villagers are very, very unhappy. And if one villager from another place comes with you to show birds in the other village, they will fight. At one point, this Jesus was just on the other side of the stream, which was others' property. So one woman who was in the vehicle just told him like, go, go. She was so mad about him. And she told me also like, get out, get out. And I was not in their property, but she told me like, get out, get out. So they have a lot of rivalry and they'll kill each other for that. Recently, one bush pilot, okay, so I think I'll talk about it later sometimes. Now, I want to show you a video which is of 25 minutes. I hope we'll finish it soon.
Go back to the beginning.
Is it very faint?
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Something funny is happening to something. There we go.
This is Wilson's bird of paradise, which is found only in Waigeo and nowhere else. So he's up early morning on his perch and calling for his wife. I mean, calling for his girlfriends. In the background, Whistler is calling. So when he hears some birds, he looks at them. Watch him what he's doing soon. Females are brown with bluish head, otherwise they don't have any colors. Regurgitated seed which he had eaten. Okay, here watch this male.
Oh.
And wait, watch him. There is another male which has come. I don't know if he's thinking it's a female. So look at his tail feathers moving.
Oh.
This is red bird of paradise, again found only in Waigeo. And this is not National Geographic videos because we had only one chance to photograph them, and weather could be anything. So he's showing off his feathers. And they have to find such branches in the forest to do all this display. So there are very few locations available.
Can they fly?
Huh?
Do they fly?
Yeah. Like they're gone, right? There's a fly here. You can hear it. There was a fly. So these two are females. Huh? These are size of crows, but the previous one was smaller than crow. So now watch it. Look at the way they move their heads, and they also do something with the eyes. Watch those eyes. You will see eyes. See, this is a female. You can see her eyes. He's displaying. And then he does that. Look at me. She says like no, and she closes her eyelid. See? He keeps doing this and that, and she keeps doing this and that. Finally, he got to mate. She was lucky, or he was lucky. Okay, parrotias are almost very dark looking birds. You don't see anything. Only when they are displaying you will see their gorgeted front. So first thing in the morning he comes to the display ground and he's cleaning the ground so you can see no leaves on the ground. He has cleaned all the places, and sometimes they pick such tiny things and they throw it out. I don't know why they think it is not good. So he heard a female coming, so he screamed. So actually I think females must be running away because of his scream, you know. So they're watching him. Suddenly you watch him. You will see him. What is he doing? Shakes his head, and sometimes he stops under somebody and shakes his head like this one. Shaking his head, like then she says, no, I don't want. See, he's the gorget in the front. And these colors are sometimes only visible to females because the angle which they see is different from the angle which we are watching. And also light varies a whole lot. You can see, right? I'm not in between.
No, it's crazy.
How vigorously he shakes his head. And this goes on for like hours together sometimes. And sometimes just when the females come. So you sit there for hours and females come for 5 minutes and gone. Mostly early mornings and few of them in the evenings. But lights are very variable.
And Meena, does this go on all year, or is there a season?
Some species can do all year, but weather, it depends on weather. Sometimes it is very rainy, so they don't display. When it is not raining, they display. But some of them display between August to October, because that is the dry season for them, nesting season. So now a female has come, so he goes, ah, and then she goes away. So there were 8 females like that visited him, and they all said no. And now this is the Vogelkop. You can see his breath going out. He's the one which Cornell Lab of O described. It was discovered long time ago, but described by Cornell Lab of O people. And they call it sad face, because his breast feathers go down. In the other species, it goes up. So that is called, other bird of paradise, it's called smiley, and this is called saddy. See, did you see his, something becoming blue? I first thought it was eyes, but it is just above the eyes there are some feathers, which, and watch that, how that blue changes suddenly. Can you see? Oh, you are watching here.
Yeah.
So that,
Unreal.
you can see he's making his eyes big by shining his something whatever on the top of his eyes. He sees somebody, no, not there. But as soon as she comes, he goes down the log, because she has to see from the top. So it's amazing, like most of these birds need to be seen from the top. So I don't know what is there on the top. We just look on the sides. But still sides are also beautiful. And there were at least 3 other birds in the surrounding. I could hear them and record them.
Are they migratory?
No. Permanent, yeah. But they will move from one location to other location. Like there was one superb, this bird was somewhere very close where we were staying, but next day he had gone. After 4 days we found him somewhere else. And he decides, like, nobody is coming, I'll go. So for this bird, the day we went, it was very cloudy and rainy. So we went, this is a female. Females, most of them look like this. And this was the pandanus fruit I was talking about, which has lots of seeds and can feed birds for lots of days, I think. Not 100 days, less than 100 days, I guess, if they're eating this many as per day. Yeah, so, okay, this is my favorite bird. So he's cleaning his display area right now. And then he stands on this small thing, and then he calls very softly. He's a slow seducer. He takes really like half an hour he takes to reach crescendo. So some female has come up, so he's more active now. I have speeded up for you quite a lot. See, his breast feathers seems to be bulging as he continues to call. And then he will show off his side feathers and look for the crescendo. And many females just come and say, like, look at them and say, like, no. And they just go away. See his display? At least not like Super Bird of Paradise, ka, ka, or Western parodium, who is so loud, it scared me also. Okay, now watch him. Look at the feathers on the back and you will see what happens to them after some time.
It almost looks like a beetle.
Uh-huh. This is a fantail calling.
What are the predators of these birds?
There are no predators.
Wow.
Most of them don't have any predators. And they are mostly frugivorous. But some of them may be omnivorous, feed on some kinds of insects. Now he's going on. He's pretty close to his crescendo now. Actually, after watching his final display, Monal was sitting next to me. I told him, like, hey, now I'm ready to die. He's telling, why? I said, like, I have seen the best thing in the world I can do. I don't need anything now. I cut down his whole half an hour to 7 minutes, but he keeps on. Okay, now go quick. So now he's going to do that. There's a female has come, you could see the thing shaking. This is a fly which was flying around my camera. But surprisingly, not many mosquitoes or anything there. See how his belly gets extended. There he's going to do that dance now. So this is his crescendo. This is his final show. But still that female said, like, no. After spending so long, here female is right up. This is the second thing. So female is looking at him and then she's telling, like, okay. Then she went to eat food. Most of the females look very similar to each other. Okay. Have you heard of bowerbirds, right? Mm-hmm. So this is bowerbird. And he gets up early morning and looks around. Watch him, what he does. This is Vogelkop bowerbird. This bird's head part of that island was special, and that bird's head is called Vogelkop. Vogelkop means bird. Vogel is bird in German, right? So it's something, Kop, I don't know what it means. So this is his thing, but I call him Trash King because he was quite close to the village.
Oh my God.
So villagers, what they will do is they will, if they find something like this, they will throw them somewhere near his nest. So he drags them all the way there and puts them in his nest. But I think some of them have been put by the villagers. Like this big thing, I don't know if you could pick up such a thing. So he's hanging around. This was very early in the morning, so you can see light is not so good.
That's the male?
That's the male. Female also looks something like this, but I didn't see any female coming to. So there are very few natural things, these beetles and stones, which are shiny, and he would turn them, and depending on the light of the day, he would change the direction of the mirrors. And beetles he want always on the upper portion, shiny portion on the top. So many things he will do, and then suddenly, see in this, he finds a small tiny thing and he throws it out. So in such big pile, what small thing, I don't know. He was looking at this thing, see, it's dirty. So finally he decided it's not good, so he threw it out. And then he sits after doing all these things, he sits right in front of his, like those sticks on the top. Some of them, one of them was slightly coming out, so he tried to push it inside so much, I don't know what was the line for him to be the best place. Then he sits and listens to females. And also he listens to other birds. Like there was a hornbill coming, and these are hornbills just coming in. After hornbills left, he called like hornbills. And so, as I said, like village was nearby, kids were playing. He was calling like kids. Kids playing. And he also would do, in this forest very often some branches fall or something like that, right? So he will do that too. Tuk! Something fell down. So he was an amazing guy, but still trash king. He saw a female, I think. So he's like, okay, now I should be going inside my bower. But she didn't come down. And there was a male who had come to steal his plastic bottle caps. So he chased him away, but I didn't get the series of that. These are birds of the plains. This is not this bird calling. This is a sulfur-crested cockatoo calling. This stuffy bird I've been hearing so often, I haven't been able to identify what it is. I've gone through all the birds of Indonesia songs, but I haven't found this sound. Can you see the 12 wires? Maybe this very fine wires. They are very fine wires. You'll see them in next one of the clips. So these birds, we looked for two of them at two locations. They came early in the morning, just before the sun. He's calling for females. Within like about 40 minutes, they decided nobody is going to come and went away. Because the density is very low, very few females are there. So every day they don't get chance to mate with anybody, I guess. Do you hear great horned owl? No, it's not great horned owl. It's one of the cuckoo doves. It so much reminded me of great horned owl, you know. Yeah, it's interesting. Many of the songs of different species are similar to songs of the birds elsewhere. So I'm so intrigued by such things. You can see now? Yeah.
No, you don't.
Now is the last bird of paradise I got. Another bird of paradise I saw was king bird of paradise, but they were so high, and in the canopy it was hard to even lift the camera that high to take a picture. These are funny birds. This is a dusky fowl in the background.
What kind of nest do they build?
Huh?
What type of a nest do they build?
Some of them are in a big crow-like nest, but some of them could be smaller ones too, depending on the size of the birds. But males don't do anything. Females only has to do everything. So as soon as the female comes to watch her, like how excited they get. Female is somewhere higher up here. Female has just come in. See there? She's coming down. And all of them come higher up and look at them from the top. So by doing this, they tell the females that have some qualities. And otherwise, this is called manucodes. As I said, like all manucodes, these are all related to crow species, right? I mean, closely related to crow species. So this is a crinkled manucode. I also saw glossy manucode and joby manucode somewhere else. And as I said, like pandanus is a very important fruit, so they use it as a bait to invite some of these birds also. It's done. 2 more minutes, I think. This is koel. Koel is very common in India, but it's an Indian koel. This is a Pacific koel. They have lovely songs, but for some reason, Indian poets think it is a female koel which sings, and all songs are based on female koels singing.
Are these birds from New Guinea?
Huh?
Are these birds from New Guinea or all over there?
See, I showed you the strip.
Yeah, you did.
So depending on which species found where, if they are found in the mountainous region, they may be found all the mountains in that region. So some of them are common to all, both New Guinea and West Papua. So this was the frogmouth final of this. This bird didn't do anything, just slept. But I did see them in the evening. So thank you very much.
We don't have time for questions. Thank you, Meena. Thank you, everyone, for your humor and your patience and being here tonight. Have a safe trip home.
Thank you.